Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to talk to you guys about UFC Fight Night Las Vegas 103. It's Manil Kopp and Asu Almabayev in the main event. But in this particular video, we're going to be talking about the early prelim fight. You know, all these fights are going to be getting down. I think they start at 4 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So if you want to watch these fights with me, get the analysis, get the live betting advice and all that other stuff, make sure you become an MVP, get to the Patreon, get to the YouTube, hit join. And shout out to all the MVPs out there. We have over 5,500 members on Patreon for a reason. And we have over 20,000 people on YouTube, but we should be way bigger. It is what it is. We've been doing this for a couple years. I want to show you guys the results before we get into this. We've been rocking pretty good this year. But just so you know, this is not a fluke. Some people say beginner's luck. Last year, here's all the fight cards. I'll scroll roll for some of you guys out there. Last year, we went 319 and 190 on the money line. Don't get it twisted, man. Some of these picks were intentionally missed. It happens. It's what we do. And that's just because of betting odds and things of this other nature. But here's what you need to look at. 82.46%. When I tell you the fight's a lock, I'm right 82.5% of the time across 177 fights. The leans were at 63%. Value bets were at 37%. It's tough to get a value bet right. That's when I'm taking an underdog to beat a favorite. Usually you want that closer to 42, 43%. It'll impact your ROI. I don't really dictate what you bet and how you bet it. That's your business. But I will tell you who's going to win the fight. That's what we do around here. So, been doing this for a couple years. The results are always posted on the channels, on the platforms. Thank you guys for being here. But this video is always free. I always do the early prelim for free and the main event for free. So, when we're looking at this early prelim fight, the first fight of the night, you have Montana De La Rosa versus Luana Carolina. I don't like to say Caroline. That's the name of my ex-wife, my second ex-wife. Can't stand that. If I see your furniture's moving, it's on site. I'm just letting you know. She did leave the country. Shout out to that loser. Nonetheless, we got these two fighting. Let's talk about who I think is going to win and what we're going to do with it. We'll start with Montana De La Rosa first. Okay, first and foremost, Montana. Shout out to her. That's actually where she was born. She trains out of Arlington, Texas, at a place called De La Rosa MMA. She trains at a gym with her husband as her coach. Her husband's a failed MMA fighter. He used to fight at 135 pounds in the UFC. A little guy decided to play stepdad and raise her kid. She had a kid as a teenager. But also when she was a teenager, she was a pretty skilled wrestler. So she had a degree or she got a scholarship to go to Oklahoma State. It didn't work out. She had to come back home because she was a pregnant teenager. Then she meets her husband while training MMA, jiu-jitsu, and there you go. And the base of her skill set is jiu-jitsu. I believe she's a brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and she's obviously a collegiate-level wrestler, and that's kind of her skill set, and that's where she's at. Now, she's 30. Some people will tell you she's attractive. I don't give a damn about any of that. What I do is I find her very boring in the cage. Now, she was on a 3-fight losing streak the last time we saw her. And then she got in the cage against Andrea KGB Lee. And that night we picked KGB Lee, and apparently we were wrong. It was a split decision victory that she got. By the way, she was outstruck. Andrea Lee landed more strikes, but she just has more control time at times. And that's going to be her path to victory. If she's ever going to win, it's going to be from a takedown and being in a dominant body position. I'm going to tell you right now, she's a boring fighter. She doesn't do anything vicious with those takedowns. She doesn't apply damage. She's just a good grappler. That's her skill set. She's a housewife that's grappling, and she's athletic in that regard, and some people like to look at her because she's pleasant on the eyes. Not to me, bro. I don't like to look at her because she's not winning you a lot of money. I'm letting you know that right now. On the other side, we got Dread here, Luana Dread Carolina, an eyesore. By all accounts, a pretty ugly woman. It is what it is. It's what she is. But I'm going to tell you she's a hell of a fighter. 11-4. And when you see 11-4, you got to understand she lost her very first fight by split decision, got submitted by Ariana Da Silva, which is an amazing fighter. And then, yes, she got knocked out and beat by Joanne Wood and Molly McCain. Those are all, the three of those are really good losses, guys. In the UFC, really good losses. And she's been on a tear these last 3 fights. Now, the last 3 fights, she's actually fought grapplers, if you will. Luana Carolina's been fighting these grappling types. She's from Brazil. She has enough ability to feign off grapplers. She can just fight and get back on her feet. Now, in these fights, you got to imagine, when did they start? When did they start camp? So if they fought in July, I'm imagining they started camp sometime in May. right? May, June, July. Yeah, May timeframe. May of 2023 to today, 2025, she has been training to beat grapplers. Think about that for a second. She is a striker, but she's been training to stay on her feet and beat grapplers, and she's done it 3 times in a row. And she's going to do it again Saturday. She really is. If you go look at her down here, we'll just pull it up. I haven't even looked at these stats yet. I'm pretty sure you're going to see it. She won 2 out of the 3 rounds. Ivana Petrovic, she's won a lot of fights with submissions. 6 takedown attempts. She landed 2 of them. If you didn't know, that's a 33% hit rate. But she did get a lot of control time. Still lost the fight. 4 minutes control time and still lost the fight. Because you're going to get outstruck by Luana Carolina. She's a striker. She's a little awkward. And I'm going to talk about that. She does some chaotic things that will make you pucker and scare you as a gambler. Now, in this particular fight against Juliana Staralenko, this is a huge one. Staralenko is a grappler, a real one. She's got like 10 wins by submission in her life. She was the favorite in this fight. And she did absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing in this fight. 21 landed strikes. We're in the 3rd round. The fight's about to end with 8 seconds left. And they have to call it. They have to call it because Juliana Staralenko was crying in the cage, getting her ass beat. I'm talking about on her back. It was side control, but it's like a scarf is what we call it. We're in a side control with scarf, meaning you have one hand under the head, one arm stuck. And she's trapped one arm, and now she's beating her up. And Staralenko's just taking it and just crying there. They had to stop the fight, bro. She took the fight out of this woman. It made me to the point where I'm like, oh, I'll never bet on Staralenko again. Never in a million years. Now, I don't even think we took her that night. We took Luana Carolina because she's a new breed of fighter. Remember, there's the pretty girl, the dainty, and then there's the I'm going to take your lunch money girl. And those new muscle-bound, male-looking, intersex females are the truth, bro. They're the truth. You're not sure quite what they are. You're like, hey, what bathroom are you going in? Do you shop in this section at Ross? Like, what's going on, bro? That's Carolina, and I'm cool with it. I'm supporting it. I like it. I think she's a beast of a person, and she's been winning these fights against these grapplers and having no issue doing it. So I say all that to tell you one more thing about this. She's been training against grappling and beating grappling in her camps for quite some time now, and she's been doing a great job. Now, yes, there will be a takedown at some point. Yes, that happens. You need to sweat through it, bro. If you're going to be betting on it, well, look, I know some of you MVPs out there. Shout out to my gamblers. Some of you guys don't bet on women's fights. Some of you guys don't bet on Asians. Some of you don't. You guys have all these rules, right? And they're not even unwritten rules. You guys write these things down. You guys say, hey, this is not going to happen. If you don't respect your coin enough to avoid a women's fight, that's on you. But it's the first fight of the night, and if you want to get it juicy, you want to get it wet, I'm telling you, Luana Carolina, they're never going to give her great odds as far as the favorite goes because they don't trust her stand-up or her grappling game to be able to stay on her feet and get up. She might lose a round. That's possible. I wouldn't bet on it, bro. Not against Montana De La Rosa. I feel really good about Luana Carolina beating her. I do. And I say this because I know what it takes to prepare for a fighter, right? So let's talk about this. I'm a coach. I used to be a coach for 20 years. Used to be a fighter for 10. And the one thing you want to do is get really good sparring partners. And let's say you're training to fight a southpaw fighter. You got to go find a bunch of lefties, come out here and let's get the work in because I got to see that combo coming from a different angle. I got to see that kick coming from this angle, all this stuff. So you got to find people that can duplicate a certain skill set. Well, let me tell you, in Brazil, they can find, or at Syndicate MMA, they can find a handful of people to be terrible at striking and a really good wrestler. They're everywhere. You can just find chicks, dudes, anybody to go out there, be terrible at striking, but a really good wrestler. And that is Montana De La Rosa. That is who she is. She is a very good wrestler with no striking. On the flip side, if you try to emulate Luana Carolina in your fight camp, who at your fight camp's doing this at De La Rosa MMA at a family gym where they're training kids to go do jiu-jitsu competitions? These are a bunch of jiu-jitsu nerds in Arlington, Texas. And I know they compete in MMA, Rico. They compete. No, bro, I know what I'm talking about. They're just not about that life. And they can get mad. They can say what they want to say. But you are training kids to fight. You're not real, bro. You're not real. And I don't think you can duplicate Luana's awkwardness and the way she strikes and what she does. So I think it's going to be your first time dealing with somebody like that. I think Luana's stronger, more physically stronger. And when you're in a female fight, physical strength is way more important. And there's such a disparity between the two. It doesn't really happen in the male fights. Like male MMA, very rarely will you see the other dude way stronger than the other. We just saw that like last week, right? We saw that with that one guy. And he just tossed the construction worker, the blue-collar kid. Nick Klein got tossed. And it was like, oh my God, he's fighting a beast. In the women's fights, that can happen from week to week, bro. It happens often because some of these girls aren't really built for that, right? When I look at Montana De La Rosa, she's built like a regular woman. She's built like a regular woman. I bet she buys regular clothes and walks around in some leggings and a sports bra. You ain't Luana Carolina. Luana Carolina is in the men's department. That's how I feel about it. So I'm going to take Luana Carolina to win this fight. Do I think she's going to get the stop before the bell? I wouldn't bet on it, but I also don't think there's any value in trying to guess whether or not it's going to go the distance or it's. I know in most girl fights, you guys just go, hey, yo, it's going the distance, Rico, I'm on it. Careful, because Luana's got great cardio, and she's going to have enough to finish this fight in the third, even if she's being taken down, even if things aren't going her way. She has enough to finish. I watched her finish in the third with 30 seconds left, right? So she's a problem. I like her to win. I just don't want you to lose your bet. So there's another thing. Let's talk about some rules here. I'm going to pull this up for you guys so you guys can see the card now. Excuse me, I am under the weather. I just got back from the doctor's office, but we got to work no matter what. So let's talk about this card in its totality. I'm going to scroll roll for you guys to see it. So first thing I'm going to tell you is I'm breaking a couple rules here. Number one, I hate making the first fight of the card a lock because that means you guys are going to parlay it with other locks, if you will. I got to be right. I got to be right here. And I'm telling you, I feel comfortable with this. The fact that the odds are a minus 146 tells me that this particular lock, you don't need to parlay it more than once. I don't like anything with more than two legs. I don't know who you are, what you do, but if you got more than two legs, I ain't fucking with you, right? Real life or on betting. So for me, I really like this 146. It's juicy, man. It's way too good. I expected Luana Carolina to be a minus 200 favorite. I really did. It's kind of intriguing to me that she's only at 146. If you want to take it and parlay it with JJ Aldrich, you can. I would be very careful just because I don't trust JJ like that. JJ's got back fat. No woman in the world should have back fat while fighting in the UFC. So there's a thing there. But I just want you guys to understand that I usually don't make a 146 a lock. If it's 146 and I really believe in it, I still leave it a lean and I just tell you, yo, bet it heavy, right? So in this particular case, I would probably feel more comfortable betting 146 in totality. I would make 146 my bet to win $100. That's what I would feel more comfortable with doing than parlaying it with a bunch of other things that could potentially go wrong. It's still a girls' fight. Things can go wrong. You'll be disappointed if it does. But I'm going to make it a lock because I think she's much better than Montana De La Rosa. Now, if she loses, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised, man. It's women's MMA, and that shit is ridiculous, right? So follow your gut. Follow your rules. If your rules say don't bet on it on women's MMA, then don't do it. If you say I'm not going to parlay the first fight of the night, then don't do it. But I'm just letting you know that from my seat, my perspective, and my analysis, this is a lock, man. I can't believe in Montana De La Rosa like that. Not at all. I think even if she does get a takedown, she's not going to be winning the stand-up. So she's not going to be winning the damage. She's not going to be winning those moments with the judges. And I don't see her maintaining that for the whole fight. Like, I think Luana can get up from a takedown from her. You've been training for 2 years to defend takedowns for the last 3 fighters you've had, and we're going into a 4th one. The UFC just keeps feeding her these grapplers who can't strike. Montana De La Rosa is going to look terrible on the feet, I promise. She's not a real striker. She got to go back to that family gym and play duck, duck, goose and shit like that, but it ain't real, bro. All right, so good luck, guys. Remember, if you want to see me break down all the other fights, learn about the fighters and everything like that, become an MVP, join the channel. You know what you're doing. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all. Peace.